Finally, they made a good 28 zombie movie. I saw 28 Years Later, and it is the best in the entire trilogy, and it's not even close. Now, the first two films are pretty hard to watch sometimes, and I mean not because sometimes they're not even on streaming platforms, but luckily they were recently. I was able to watch the first and second one because I haven't, and I remember watching some clips of the first two, but that's about it. But yeah, the first movie, it is really rough, and it's a good fine movie. I think there's a lot of great things about the film, but man, the quality is just unacceptable, and I don't care what anyone says. I don't care if that's what the director wanted. He wanted the movie to look all gritty and dark and not really well lit. I don't fucking care. There's just no excuse. You actively chose to make the film look bad, and even watching this movie back then, because they used such shitty equipment, the movie just looks fucking awful on like high resolution. Because they messed up this fundamental thing with their film, it is just impossible to not look at this movie and see how shitty it looks. Now, rant over. Good music, good characters. It's really scary and intense, and it's a really good zombie movie for its time. It definitely reminds me of The Walking Dead, and I don't know which came first. I'm assuming The Walking Dead came after. It's just really fine. I'd probably give it a 6 out of 10. And then the second movie, and yay, the second movie came, and it's good with the quality now, but the story and the characters fucking suck. Holy God, I watched this movie and thought, like, am I watching a comedy? Because everything that just happens in this film was just so dumb and goofy. You're telling me that this, like, island of cities, like, with the military involved, have all the security, all these backups, they have all these things planned, all these things ready in case of an outbreak, yet they managed to have one just because someone snuck in and kissed his dead zombie wife? What the fuck? Bull fucking shit. Nah, I could go on and on about how goofy this movie was. Every decision that was made was just so goofy and dumb. I couldn't stop laughing at all the shit that just kept happening. Nothing really made sense. It's really bad, honestly. I don't understand what they were cooking. It probably explains why we haven't had a 28 zombie movie in such a long time. And by the way, I'm gonna call these movies 28 zombie movies just because whatever. And then the trailer for 28 Years came out, and I was like, oh shit. I remember these movies, and now they're making a new one called 28 Years Later. And I said at the beginning, this one is objectively the best one. It is such a really good film. I just love this film so much, and as I'm recording this, it turns out they are making a sequel. I hope this is a good sequel. I don't know how long they're going to do this, but yeah, we'll see with that. So one thing I want to talk about when it comes to 28 Years Later is its editing and the style of movie it decided to go with. I've seen a lot of people not like it and say that this movie is Oscar bait because of the way it's edited. They really mean that, or they're really saying that, because throughout the movie, and especially in the first half of the film, when the main character is going to the mainland to hunt zombies, it was spliced in with videos and like recordings of old wars of back in the day while playing this chant music, and I don't understand what people are saying. It was so fucking perfect. An example of Oscar bait is Emilia Perez. That's fucking Oscar bait. This film was not. If you saw the first trailer to 28 Years Later, you'd know it's the same like chant and poem that was sung or like said in the trailer. They did the same thing in this movie, so I don't understand why are people upset about it. The song or the chant is about marching on and continuing war and not letting shit get to your head, even though shit's been dragging on for such a long time. This is a movie called 28 Years Later. It's a zombie movie, so what do you fucking expect? The song or the poem is supposed to resemble how the people are feeling with this apocalypse. I could go on and on. I think the editing is perfect. That ties into what I want to say with the cinematography and the camera shots they decided to go with. This movie was really fucking good with its camera shots. There was this weird series of shots that they did a few times where when, let's say, someone shoots an arrow and the arrow is about to hit a zombie head, but the camera turns and then the arrow then goes through the head to like show a different perspective. I don't think that's like really bad. I think it's really like cheeky or cheesy or whatever. I'm pretty sure this movie was filmed on iPhone, so which I don't know if that's just a tradition when it comes to these films. Do they always have to use weird filming equipment? So regardless, it didn't take too much away from me, but yeah, editing, cinematography, and the shots that they did was just all fucking perfect. Tied in with the music was so fucking good. It really added to the theme of this being all scary and creepy and ominous. The style, the whole thing about this film of how it looked and how it was edited in post, give everyone a fucking like raise, please. It is so rare where I'm talking about good editing and good cinematography in a film. I really mean it. It's really good to see a film do good in these departments. Now, the story. It takes place 28 years after the zombie apocalypse. That's it. But no, seriously, the main story that we're following is a boy named Spike who turned 12, I believe, and is now old enough to technically become a hunter for the village that he is in. In this village, they've managed to survive the apocalypse by being on an island that has a way to get to the island, but the only way is through the water lowering at a certain time of the day. So they use that to their advantage to like be protected by the zombies. They're able to grow plants and crops and everything. They have animals. They have everything they need. They have a lot of people there. So this is a really good village, honestly. It definitely seems like they're surviving really well. I honestly thought this was going to be a very small town, but it's a very big town. Yeah, Spike is old enough to now hunt zombies with his father, so his father takes him to the mainland where it's all forest, a bunch of mountains, and a shit ton of zombies. And something goes awry, and they eventually have to get themselves back. That's all I want to say about the plot, because that's really honestly just the first half of the film. I'll talk about more later. New to the zombie universe of 28 years later, and the thing about the whole like zombie lore is you have to pick things up from the film. Like whenever they introduce something in a movie, you just have to know like, oh, okay, now we need to accept that. They're never gonna outright have a narrator just explain, oh, this is what the zombies are. You have to just learn them as the film goes. But we now have alpha zombies, which are big, buff, fast as fuck zombies that will control other zombies, and goddamn, they are fucking scary. There's now also these chubbier type of zombies that crawl real slow and eat like worms and shit, so that explains how they're fat. I even noticed that in the film they wanted to show that zombies are somewhat gaining a like personality, but like conscience or some type of thing. They're like becoming so like, what's the word, normalized in the world. I really don't know the right words to say it, but they just start acting like, oh, water, I can now use this water to wash my body. When you think of a zombie, you think, oh, they're gonna run at me, they're gonna eat me, and then they're gonna find more food and keep walking around till they do. But like, you never expect zombies to have like, oh, have attention spans or something like that. And since it's been 28 years, the zombies are evolving to be more humanized, but they're still fucking zombies. They're gonna fucking try to eat you. The writing is really well done. They establish all the same rules of the other previous zombie movies. Nothing has changed, and really they only added to the film. I've said it before, but this movie is really, really scary, so it's going to feel like a horror show or a horror movie at some points. And honestly, I think that's the best part of this film, how it really just acts like a horror film. But that's all I want to say for the first part. I want to talk about some spoilers and the entire like plot of this film. Though if you don't want to hear about spoilers, skip to this section. There's the warning. All right. Everyone's gone. So the first half of this movie is Spike learning to be a man. He has to go out and kill a zombie or two, and he has to come back home just so he can prove that he can be a hunter. It's been the tradition with this entire village that they're in, but there's this other thing that happens in the film, because that's just the first half. Spike has a mom who is very, very sick and has been showing signs that she's not doing well for a while now, and after his like party celebration, because he had one for killing like 2 zombies, he had a party and he came home to his mom because he was kind of told that his mom isn't really going to make it that much longer. And after spending time with her, Spike decides to go out and take her mom to go see a doctor that he was told about through this other old guy that doesn't really matter. He somehow manages to sneak out of his village, which has been doing a good job with keeping security up, but somehow Spike like pulled a fast one on them. It does make sense how he got out, but you know, the movie's got a movie and it's got to move along, so it's not really that like important. But he does manage to get out and go to this doctor, and he's been told by other people, including his dad, that this doctor is kind of crazy because he like buries bodies, or he burns them, actually. That's what he does. But he just wants his mom to be healthy, and he's willing to do what it takes. Now granted, this guy, or this child, is a child. He's 12 years old, so it's not going to be an easy task, and I guess after killing a few zombies, he's ready to just go out on his own. But of course he brings his mom with him. to this doctor. There is this moment where he doesn't really like his dad anymore because he's been cheating on his mom and hasn't really told him the truth at all, so he really gets upset at that, and this just adds to the reason as to why Spike decided to go out and abandon his dad, and well, not really abandon, but really just betray his wishes to not go out and see this doctor because he's pretty creepy. But Spike doesn't care. He loves his mama. So begins the second half, where he goes back to the mainland with his mom to go see this doctor. There's this moment where we get to see these military soldiers are on like a mission to do something, and they end up getting all fucked up except for one character named Derek, I believe. He eventually meets up with Spike and saves him and his mom's life from this gas station situation, and teams up with them to just go and find this doctor because he has nothing better to do. There was this moment where like they hang out on the field, and Derek has a cell phone, like an actual smartphone. So I said it earlier, this implies that like there are parts of the world that seems like they're just doing fine. They haven't really been affected, and I'm pretty sure that some parts of the world are only infected. Now, the reason why I said that is because, truth be told, when I saw this film the other day, I was late and I missed the first parts of the film. And so I don't know truly what the whole like context is for the world. I know they do the whole 28 years later, and I do remember seeing the screen say Great Britain was left to defend themselves, or London, something like that. So please correct me if I'm wrong. I apologize. I will never be late to a film like that ever again. I really wish I wasn't, but there was a lot of weather and traffic and circumstances that I just could not like get past. So yeah, he has a smartphone and he shows him a picture of his girlfriend, and he eventually throws it away, which I guess they can't charge phones anymore. So he even says it's a brick. They eventually go and find some zombies, you know, takes care of them here and there, and they eventually find a pregnant zombie. Yes, a pregnant zombie, and the zombie is like pregnant enough to where it's about to give birth, and yeah, it does give birth, and it's kind of a lot to see because I've never seen a pregnant zombie give birth. And the pregnant zombie wasn't like attacking or anything, and like wasn't like mad, and it turns out the baby that they gave birth to was a human baby that was unaffected. Now this brings a lot to question, like, can zombie babies just give birth to human babies all the time? Are they immune to the zombie apocalypse? Who knows? They said something about the placenta, and that's just it. And what's cool is like, I think I mentioned it, but like the pregnant zombie wasn't like attacking the mom, because the Spike's mom was like helping her. They were like holding hands, and that gave me a suspicion, like, do these zombies have some of their humanity back? Who knows? But it doesn't really last that long. Derek shoots the mama zombie because she gets mad again after passing out for giving birth. And then we find the alpha zombie that was killing the military men and also was creeping out Spike's father when they went on their first mission. He found them and fucking ripped Derek's head off and with the spine. That was pretty gruesome. And there was this like implied like thing where the alpha zombie was like upset that the pregnant zombie died. Maybe he got her pregnant because his meat was out. Oh god, we saw his meat. So he then sees Spike and his mom running away, so he chases them out the train that they were in. They were in a train. And eventually he gets poked by the doctor and he gets drugged out. And the doctor's like, come with me, we gotta go now. We meet the doctor. He has been surviving on his own, on his little mini island surrounded by water. He has ways to like be around the zombies, or like not get detected by them. It's pretty cool, but it's also like, how do you have all these supplies? Where are they coming from? After hanging out with him, we get to see a bunch of his routines that he does with like zombies, with burning them, getting their skull and putting it on this tower. And Spike, of course, asks him for help. And there's this really awful moment where Spike learns that his mom isn't going to make it because she has cancer. And Spike being Spike, he thinks, is there a medicine that I can get? And he just has to accept the fact that his mom is going to die because, of course, like, you can't fucking cure this, especially in this world where it's like we don't even have anything close to trying to curing it. This upsets Spike, but he understands that he needs to move on and live on without his mom, and he is told the meanings of remembering death and remembering love. And honestly, those are really good meanings to show in this movie, especially during a zombie apocalypse. I like what they did here with that. He then has the opportunity to bury his mom. Well, not really bury. He actually plants his mom's skull on the tower. So he does that, and this like somewhat completes his journey, but he now has to make it back home with the zombie pregnant born baby. And he eventually, like, there's some scuffle between, like, the alpha zombie, but he gets put back to sleep again. But eventually, Spike makes it back home and decides to leave the baby there and tells him, like, hey, don't kill this baby. It was born from a zombie, but don't worry, she's safe. I don't know if they're setting up some stuff for the sequel, but that's what we know. But Spike decides to go out and, you know, live in the mainlands by himself and become a man. Now, I do like what they were doing with the whole, like, the father adventure was about learning how to survive and be strong and everything, and, like, the mother adventure was, like, learning the importance of meaning and, like, or, like, love and death. It's really cool, but it doesn't really make sense why Spike decided to go back to the mainland. I mean, I don't really know. Doesn't really matter because the ending has got to end, and we get to the point where Spike has been on his own for about a month, and he meets up with these whack jobs. Now, I mentioned I didn't watch the beginning of this film. I was late, and the beginning of the film, after watching a recap, told the story of this boy who was, like, part of this rich family who had his entire family fucking killed by the zombies, but he managed to escape, and I did see a little blonde boy escaping, like, this, like, church or building, so that's what I did see. So this boy eventually grew up to be this, like, zombie killer who kind of takes things to the extreme and was just very goofy and childish, and I really like what they decided to do with the meaning with this whole, like, parallel that is between Spike and Jimmy, who is this blonde kid that I've been talking about. Spike, at the beginning of the film, grew up and he went through a lot of shit, as we just saw in the film, and it was signified by this when he decided to go out on the adventure. But before that, he put his Power Ranger toy on the shelf because it's time to stop being a child. Jimmy, on the other hand, didn't do this. He grew up physically, but he is still a child mentally, as we saw with the way he was killing the zombies. At first, I thought this was, like, making fun of other zombie games and movies, but no, Jimmy is crazy with the way he kills zombies, and he has this group of other killers with him who all have to wear blonde wigs, almost as if he's, like, replacing his family. Eventually, Jimmy wants to team up with Spike, and he agrees, and then the movie ends. It's definitely one of those endings where it's like, you gotta, like, really think about the movie and see the little small, fine details, but the ending isn't that bad because it's just, I don't know, you just gotta understand what the meaning was and it'll make sense. But yeah, that was 28 years later. It is a good fucking zombie movie. I liked it so much. There's only really a few things that's, like, very weird and goofy with this film, but it's not as bad as the second movie. The first one is still fine. The second one is really bad, but this is a really good film. I really love the editing, the cinematography, the music, the sound design, the, like, effects, like, they decided to do. The sound effects they decided to use was really, really good. Just, you know, I don't think the story makes the most amount of sense when it comes to Spike. We don't know how people would act in a zombie apocalypse. Sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do, and there's gonna be times where things just aren't answered with, like, how the doctor was able to survive this long. But yeah, a really good film. I think everyone should definitely go and watch it. I will give this an 8 out of 10. I thought it was really, really good. But yeah, what do you guys think? That's 28 years later. And in about 28 weeks, we will have 28 years later part 2 or 29 years later, because if it's the end of a year, but I don't know. I'm just waiting for us to get to 28 decades, and then maybe the zombie apocalypse will end. Who knows? But yeah, everyone, make sure to wash your hands and make sure to stay 6 feet apart. And everyone, you have a nice one.